And we're live. Welcome back, guys. This is another episode of the Solvable Mysteries Podcast. My name is Juras. I'm joined by Glenn Highcove. Man, how are you feeling?
Hey, I'm doing okay. Just fighting off allergies like probably everybody else in the world this time of year. But yeah, it's an interesting. It's been an interesting week, right? There's been a lot of a lot of good feedback from everybody about our last show, which is why we're going to do a show today that is even more so like last week. But even I guess it's worth mentioning that for next week is going to be something completely different. And there was a case, which we're not going to say which one, but it looks like it was like a long-term mystery, and it looks like another podcast actually may have helped solve this case. And there's this big breakthrough. So I'm really excited about not just this week, but next week.
Yeah, exactly. For next week, we will be returning to a case that we've done like over a year ago. And yeah, some major new developments are like happening as we speak. Well, they have happened already. Some of the audience members I'm sure, know what I'm talking about, but definitely stay tuned, guys. For the next week, we're not going to be back to the Kris Kremers and Lisanne Froon for next week, but there's a massive breakthrough in one of very interesting cases that especially myself found very interesting when we did it way back. The show was completely different, so I can't wait to jump back to that case. But today we're back talking about the Lisanne Froon's, and Kris Kremers' disappearance, the two Dutch students who disappeared on April 1st in 2014. I'm sure everyone who watched the last episode know already about the story, and we ended off that particular episode by the comments where we saw that, oh crap, we don't have enough time to go through the comments. But guys, we don't want to just do this case all over again, give you the same information. So I promise you, this is not going to be that. We're going to be doing new information, and we have new theories, two big theories. Now, I'm not sure if we're going to be able to do both of them. I'm hoping that at least one of the big theories, or some interesting key points, we will address on the second part of this particular episode 92. So stay tuned. But as promised, guys, I've picked out the most interesting comments from the YouTube section, and I want to go through them, and I didn't pick the ones that sort of give the same information. So if your particular comment is not highlighted in the presentation today, don't think that we didn't want to put it on there. It's probably that someone else had mentioned a similar sentiment, because there were comments pretty much entailing the same information. So we definitely want to keep this more interesting and touch upon very interesting points and suspicious details. Like, some of these comments are gonna pose very interesting questions. Without any further ado, let's jump to the comments, and then let's see if we can handle some more crazy theories. I've looked into a few this week, and Glenn as well, and we really want to address those. So jumping back to the comments, right? This is still from episode 56, I believe. Phil Lynott says, the Panamanian police deleted that photo. It was probably a sensitive photo showing something they don't want the public to see. The fact that the police are not admitting that it's criminal, in my opinion. So I'm sure Phil is referring to picture 509, the infamous picture that was deleted, and you can only delete it via the computer software. Now, dude, you're definitely more of a picture expert than me. You're like semi-professional photographer at this point. So your take on 509 and the fact that you could only delete it via software. How is it? How did it got deleted either way, like without software?
Yeah. So, I mean, one of the things about this was one of the YouTubers who I think has one been in contact with us directly. I'm trying to remember if he was one of our co-collaborators on a
Romaine
previous episode.
C.
Oh, okay, that's right. Okay, so yeah, there's another YouTuber who goes, I mean, deep, deep, deep in this whole topic, and he got the exact same camera, and he actually disputes that. He disputes that you can't. Well, okay, wait. I'll have to put a little asterisk on this. Let me not overcomplicate it. the main thing is that for a photo to be deleted, I think this commenter is right that somebody else has to be in the loop. So essentially, I think he's correct that it couldn't have been, just given what we know happened in this case.
Yeah.
It didn't happen where they did it from their camera. Apparently, there's something that would show up on the memory card, and that thing isn't showing up. And one of the other YouTubers was like, yeah, basically the only way you could really make it disappear would be to like do like the cut function from like a computer.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And that kind of apparently disrupts a lot of the memory stuff. But I think it's more complicated than just that statement. Makes it sound like it's just cut and dry. It sounds like there's a lot of kind of wackiness and haziness around the pictures themselves. And yeah, I mean, the fact is, these pictures, we don't really have like a clean
Yes.
chain of custody from those pictures. You know what I mean? It's not, there's always going to be at least the Panamanian investigators in the middle, if not more parties. And like the fact is, a lot of these photos, I think, were gotten like
Yeah.
2 or 3 parties down. If that makes sense.
Yeah, quickly, we will probably not address other comments for this long because we have 44 comments in total that I've picked out. And hopefully, we get through them all. Now, for this particular comment, I have some more clarification for this particular comment. So, for some people, they maybe remember that I didn't particularly know which picture was actually 508 on the previous episode, so that was super unprofessional on my part. Whatever, I have the information now. Now this is definitely 508, so I was not wrong, at least in the previous episode. This is 507, this is 508. Immediately I want to jump to one thing, that 507, this picture right here, and 508 have been taken in the span of 8 seconds. Now, a lot of people are thinking, because I want to address 2 points here, and I will want your quick, quick thoughts on these 2 details. So the first detail is that 507, right? This is, Kris Kremers. Apparently, she walks past that little stream of water, and she stands here. So a lot of people found it very suspicious. How do you go from here to here in 8 seconds? Personally, I will say, I don't think it's suspicious. I think I personally could go from here to here in 8 seconds. What about you, dude? Do you find this suspicious?
No, not at all. I mean, that looks like, to me, when I take a burst of photos, that maybe for like a senior citizen,
Yes,
that would be hard. I don't know. I don't get it. These are like two young ladies in great shape with hiking boots on, as everyone has reminded me.
Yeah, exactly. Now, this picture right here is a picture 542. So it's not 510. So I was not wrong there again. So it's like quite down the line. It's just a lot of other weird nighttime pictures were taken of water particles, etc., before this particular picture was taken. Now, the question I have for you, the second part of this particular picture details. Now, let's remember how you said that it's still unclear and it's not as simple as the picture 509 had to have been deleted on software and things like that. Okay, so let's say it didn't. Let's say it could have been deleted by just using the camera phone itself, just deleting it on the camera, and that's how it would have been deleted. Let's just say that for 1 second. Let's just just theorize that's all it took to delete 509. Dude, if we're still going by the accident theory, no foul play or whatever, why would either girl try to delete 509? Because I want to address one thing. 509 was deleted. It's not like it never happened, because how could you have picture 510 without 509? Like the camera doesn't work like that. So 509 was deleted. So Kris Kremers and Lisanne Froon had to delete 509. and we don't know the time when it was taken, but it's literally the picture that connects the nighttime pictures and this picture right here that we're looking at. In your opinion, what's the reason to delete 509? I personally have no idea why the girls would do that.
Yeah, it makes no sense to me either. I mean, unless it was, you know what? I'm gonna hold my tongue because it's. I was about to say something that was like pretty dark humor, but it probably isn't the time for it. But yeah, I mean, unless it was literally a picture of one of them holding their leg, massively injured, and they're like, "Oh, I don't want to remember that," and they deleted that. I mean, the whole thing is wacky, right? It doesn't.
Yes,
None of it makes sense between this picture and what we see next.
exactly. Okay, let's jump back to the comments then. The next comment we have is Belinda Lewis. The fact that they were there to volunteer but were turned away seems off to me. The details were confirmed before they traveled there, yet out of nowhere they aren't allowed to do their job. Seems to me like they were lured there for exactly this purpose. They wanted two vulnerable women to kidnap, rape, kill, human traffic. I think there's more to this than meets the eye for sure. I hope they get justice one day. So, without stopping here for too long, I think Belinda is insinuating that this was a pre-planned abduction of the two girls. I personally don't see it being the case. So, sorry, Belinda. What are your thoughts, man?
Yeah, I mean, who's they, right? I
Exactly.
mean that, like that's sounds like a pretty broad conspiracy of, you know, a school. Yeah, I guess we'd have to be pretty specific, and then it does not sound necessarily very reasonable to me.
Exactly. The next comment is a pretty longer one. Okay, so Patrick Cassidy, very good video. I agree with the co-host. I think referring to you, Glenn. So someone's. So this is gonna be about you, I think. That the two girls probably should have taken head of the warnings of the locals. I am disappointed with the woman who turned them away from the school. In a way, it indirectly led to their death. But thinking that the developing world is the same as the first world was a little careless, as the co host pointed out. It is impossible that the backpack would have been in the pristine condition that it was, and it been floating around the jungle for that length of time. Overall, they only found about 15% of the bone fragments of the two girls, so something is not right here. One of the Panamanian bone specialists who was interviewed suggested that there are gangs here who traffic organs. He talked to the interviewers but had his face hidden. That would suggest why the money and phones were not taken. They are wealthy gang members, and the guide who visited the room of the girls on the 2nd of April is strange too. Police members could be involved too. Maybe the gang were throwing memoirs for the families by leaving the bag and jeans along the trail. We will never know for sure now. It looks like the two girls went into a wicked web that day, what with the locals warning them off on the periphery to the two girls entering the inner layer a step too far maybe. I don't know if it was them taking those pictures later after number 509. Okay, so just to summarize, I think this person is definitely bringing, Patrick definitely is bringing two good points. I think the fact that the bones, only 15% of the bones were recovered, the backpack was in pristine condition. I think this is, and then organs, gangs that traffic organs. So you want to address those points a little bit, or any reactions?
Yeah, I mean, just really quickly, backpack. Yeah, I agree. The backpack thing, I think, has always bothered all of us. The pristine condition. It does seem like something was tampered with. The organ trafficking gang topic. It comes up so often in so many of our cases. It almost begs the discussion, or begs the topic of us doing an episode on it and some kind of deep dive, because I am really fascinated now because it's come up so much. I would really like to know how much of that is urban legend. I mean, because I'll just finishing the thought. I wonder if you even need to have organ trafficking when you've got a country like China that essentially sells the organs of executed prisoners all over the place at probably, in volume. Like they're like the Walmart of trafficked organs. So I don't know how much like that actually goes on in the rest of the world. That's like a, you know what I mean? It comes up so much as like a, a, a theory that it almost makes me think that sometime we should do a deep dive.
Exactly. Hopefully, we won't cut our CCP ties completely after such episodes. Let's move to the next comment. Another comment from Patrick Cassidy. Yeah, mafiosi stuff. Okay, so referring to Joseph R., who is a cool guy. I know this guy. Yeah, mafiosi stuff, where local people go along with a protection racket for fear of falling out with these bad guys. They were being watched, and unfortunately, two attractive girls who were scantily dressed would have became targets. The guy they were supposed to go with on the Tuesday was involved too, I would say, and his house should have been checked. Referring to Feliciano Gonzalez, who had that coffee farm in the middle of the jungle. Actually, they may have been held captive there if the police had checked. But these bad guys are above the law, and the police ponder to them a rotten underbelly of a place from top to bottom. The two girls saw the romantic side of it all. If they had gone with this fellow on the Tuesday, ironically, they would have been alright because it was a legitimized trip. So I don't think we need to stop here, but it's an interesting comment. I think Patrick, Patrick Cassidy pretty much, shows more of his thinking here. Maybe, that. I don't know what this entails, that maybe if they went with Feliciano on the second, then Feliciano wouldn't have killed them, but if they went on the first, then Feliciano have killed them. I don't know what to make of that. I don't know if I subscribe, but I definitely like reading these comments. Let's jump to another comment. Rumble Hat says, the key seems to be that one girl had asthma, which would be Lisanne. Lisanne is like proposed to have had asthma, the taller girl. And they were very high above sea level, along with the high heat and humidity. Bad place to be with asthma and possibly no medications. Then the switch of phone usage after one phone battery is empty, and the repeated wrong pin entries says the other girl was trying to unlock the phone. But this is crazy, because let's remember that the first phone that died was the Samsung phone that belonged to Lisanne. And if we're going by the theory that if Lisanne had asthma and she died first, then it wouldn't really make sense, because Chris's phone was the one that had wrong pin code entries, which makes us believe that maybe Lisanne is still alive and Kris is dead. So I don't think this comment really makes like logical sense, but I will say that Juan actually, he said that there is no actual proof that Lisanne had asthma, and it's some sort of a misconception apparently. Your take on it, man?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I feel like the person's kind of agreeing with some of my initial sentiments about the case originally. It is interesting though that, yeah, to your point, the asthma thing, was that just a red herring? Like it's interesting that came up. We did have some indications that she was in some kind of ill health though, right before the hike. Is that right?
Yeah, something like that. But
But
yeah.
yeah. Well, I guess it's just the person is sort of echoing my sentiments though about altitude sickness and just major climate differences between where they were from and Central America.
Exactly. Then the next comment would be of J Swan Kilo J, but this is not the one that we looked at on the previous episode. Basically, J Swan Kilo J says that picture of the red thing on the rock, it's a piece of red balloon from a nearby spa that they frequented with a couple of local guys. And then we have a reply. I've read from Mutiny on the Kitty Cat. I've read that the pieces of red material are torn up plastic shopping bag. One is visible in a photo of their room before they left on the hike. The color looks identical. On another of the photos the round mirror. On the rock with the tissue paper is almost certainly the shiny metal base of a tube of Pringles they're known to have had. Now I have this picture, so I just quickly want to jump to it really quickly. So, these commenters are referring to this picture right here. So this is the picture where apparently, I'm just gonna bring out my mouse. You could probably, I can zoom in. You could see this is probably the proposed Pringles thing, like the lid that you would, you could use to, like, I don't know, try to get someone's attention. Now, why I picked this comment as significant is because if we know for a fact, and I will want your opinions, dude, let's look at this area right here. So this is, if we know for a fact that this is not randomly scattered, pieces of some sort of a tissue or toilet paper perhaps, and a lid of Pringles perhaps, if this is not random, if this is actual attempts at trying to, like, sort of making themselves more like better seen, because let's remember helicopters were searching for them, so they may have heard helicopters. Now, if this is actually not random, then that would mean, to me at least, that the girls were still alive and were still trying to get out on April 8th. Now, that's a long time to stay alive, and maybe one of them was already dead, because at that point, let's remember that Kris Kremers' phone had incorrect PIN entries. So at this point, when this picture was taken, no one could actually enter the phones correctly. So what are your thoughts, dude? Do you think this is more of a random piece of scattering from what we can see, or does this look like an active attempt at getting rescued?
Yeah, I mean, it does kind of look like one of the survival attempts. But then everybody says, and I have to agree with them, why did they not record themselves? Like,
Yeah.
why this whole sequence of weird, these whole sequence of weird pictures, and nothing that's like we're lost, or like, a picture of their own face, or them recording themselves, because the camera did record video and they had phones as well. Like, why not that effort?
How about them already being dead, perhaps for multiple days, but on, let's say, maybe they all die on, I don't know, maybe the 5th or something. I think there was a brief period of time when the phones were not used at all or something like that. Let's just say that happened. What if they somehow have died, let's say day 2 or day 3 or whatever, because day 8 to still survive, I think it's pretty, I mean, it's definitely like hard to do. What are the chances, in your opinion, that some of the more native people stumbled upon a camera? They know how a camera works, they were at night, and they just decided to, like, take, I don't know, random pictures, just took a bunch of random pictures. What if this SOS rescue attempt was made on, let's say, day 3 or day 2 or whatever, but someone stumbled upon it later on and just took the picture, you know what I mean, when the girls were sadly dead at that point?
That's the whole. I mean, I think the big question mark about the whole theme of, those pictures after the deleted picture is they don't really seem to make much sense. So it doesn't, to me, it doesn't even look like somebody. I mean, I
And
feel like even, you know what I mean, even
yeah,
even accident. I mean, it almost looks accidental,
exactly.
or
I,
like they're laying on their back.
I just want to add to what you're just saying. I've read something very interesting last night. Someone had written a very interesting thing that, on April 8th, when these pictures were taken, let's remember Lisanne Samsung is already dead, so that's, not much use of that phone. But Kris Kremers' iPhone is still alive, and now the interesting part there is that Kris Kremers' iPhone 4, I believe, or maybe it was iPhone 3, I think it was iPhone 4 actually, had the function of the torchlight without actually opening the phone. Like you could turn on the torchlight without entering the pin code. So if that's actually the case, then the whole them trying to take pictures just to see where they're going or just to see what's happening sort of doesn't make any sense, because the torchlight is still like available for you. You know what I mean? So that's just a thought I had. Right. Let's jump to another comment. Let's see, what do we have here next? We have Woody Woodstock. Now, this is a longer comment, so I'll try to read it pretty quickly. If the camera was first in the hands of local authorities for a while before being given to the parents, etc., then the missing picture 509 could well be of a person or tribe known to these local authorities to be suspicious. Did the camera or cell phones show any signs of having been in the river? I don't know. Or the local authorities actually caught the perps during one of their searched and arranged for searches. One of their searched, oh yeah, so this is not correct grammar, but whatever, and arranged for the recovery of everything in order to help cover the crime up. This type of crime, to pretty young girls would probably cause a drop in tourism or bring unwanted scrutiny on the local authorities. So they would have a strong motive to delete the picture 509 as part of a cover-up. How else it could be deleted? Next, can the dark night pictures be lightened better with any Photoshop or some other program that could reveal who or what the subject of the pictures was? Why would these girls take pictures of something you couldn't see? Did the local authorities darken the pictures when they deleted 509? Look for the Occam's Razor Solutions, Woody. Well, first of all, I don't think the second part, the darkening of the pics, I don't think that was done. I think Juan or someone else would have pointed that out. Now, I want to quickly stop here, ask you a question regarding this comment. Let's say the authorities, let's say 509 was of some sort of gang member or something like that, that would sort of indicate that, the girls were most likely kidnapped and killed by this particular gang member, and he is seen on picture 509 maybe taking a picture of himself with the dead bodies, or picture of himself with like Lisanne or Kris or something like that, or both of them. Why would the authorities even like bring back the camera at that point? If their sole intention is to cover it up, then why would you even recover the backpack in the first place? Or if you did, and you need to show the backpack, why wouldn't you say, oh, the camera is missing, and just dispose of the camera? If you're actively trying to cover up this whole situation, if you're the authorities, why would you delete 509 and then expect us to not look at the meta files and find out that there was picture 509? Wouldn't this be like super crappy work on authorities? You know what I mean?
I think, well, so in terms of why they did it, I think somebody might say it's because they wanted people to stop looking. So they wanted to find there was no missing, you know what I mean? There's nothing left to look for other than if you were still looking for the remains. And you'll say, well, there was enough of them found that they're dead. So, and we found the camera, and we found we found everything. We found the backpack, we found the cameras, we found the phone. By the way, I guess that's a good question, is how do the phones still work if they've been like soaked in water, all that? I mean, I jumped in a pool one time with my phone on and swam like 25 meters, and my phone never worked again.
Yeah.
And that was a pretty expensive accident. So like, how come my phone couldn't be salvaged, but these phones? I guess it was because they were powered off by the time they got wet. I assume. I know that sometimes saves it, but yeah. Anyway, that, and then I guess what was the other part? The other part of the question, I guess, is why they would think that they could remove something and nobody would know. I would say that maybe was a lack of technical sophistication, which is not that unusual, because you see that even Frankly, I even see that with my own police department, and that's not a knock on the police department. It's just it's not their job often to know that part of things versus like,
Mm.
maybe other aspects of their job. So yeah, even like my neighborhood watch trying to do a Zoom conference, they're still doing some pretty amateur stuff where like if it was a corporation, you would kind of laugh, but like they
Yeah.
don't know. Yeah.
And this also leads us to a bigger, bigger picture question. In your opinion, would the authorities even try to cover up, that, oh, a gang member, like, sort of probably in a gruesome fashion, killed both girls? Would the authorities even try to cover it up in hopes of protecting their tourism industry?
So we can call that the Panamanian tourism industry conspiracy theory, right? Because
Yeah.
that one's come up a lot. I don't know, dude. I mean, the fact is, you know what? I'm on the fence because part of me would say, oh no, of course they would never do that. But then like, there's other tourists that go missing, and frankly, it turns out something bad has happened to them. And like a lot of other countries, well, not just in Central America, of course, but Central America is one of those destinations where it's both exotic and like bad things sometimes happen to tourists.
Yeah.
Yeah, same thing where it's like, I don't know. I wouldn't, I mean, tourism. By the way, wasn't Boquete? I think we said in a previous episode it was known for like its jazz festival.
Yep.
I think was like
Yep.
the big, yeah, and it's like, well, that doesn't really help their jazz festival if, these
Uh,
two very charismatic young ladies go missing in a violent way.
exactly. No,
So
that's
yeah.
actually, yeah, that's the jazz festival. That's a very good point. I had completely forgotten about that one. The next comment, Jamie Costa. All the trail speculation means nothing when the cameras were in somebody's possession for 2 months or so, and witnesses saw them trying to get a return taxi in Alto Lino, Casa Pedro, for example. See Juan Pera Masue videos for more complete info. So this is the same Juan, and yeah, apparently, the trail. I mean, I think we could move past this comment. We have still a lot of them, but there is a line of thinking that I'm not sure if you're ready to talk about that. I'm definitely not. Apparently, the girls were seen getting a return taxi in Altolino, but the bone fragments were located in the jungle. So I don't know. I don't want to necessarily speculate here for too long since I don't have the information. The next comment, there's like a whole conversation. If you watched Lost in the Wild by J.J. Kelly and Kinga Phillips, the villagers turned in the backpack to get their reward, and that's the only reason why they did. They don't give a S about Kris and Lisanne. They know what happened. Now their replies. Yes, they know, but if ever they talk, they will be dismembered by the gang. But why not take the $83 from the backpack before handing it in? And then a response, good question, very strange. So, yeah, apparently, I think we've talked a little bit about this on the previous episode, how we think that there's high suspicions that maybe the backpack was turned in attempts to get the money, the 30K. I don't want to necessarily stop at this comment as well, but I will say for the audience members, if you have, by the way, dude, if ever when I'm going through these comments, you have something to add, just stop me before I move to the next one, okay, man? So basically, all I'm gonna say is, does anyone in the comment section or audience members on the podcast apps or wherever, do you guys know if the money was actually ever paid out? Because with these rewards, they like never get paid out, in my opinion. So if anyone knows if they got paid out, just hit us up in the comments. Yeah.
I
Oh,
mean, I'll just
sure.
yeah. One parting thought on that is,
Exactly.
I mean, two things. One could be like if you just take them at face value, maybe they just like it might be a part of the world or a neighborhood where like they do feel strongly about property rights, because that is like a pretty big thing in some societies. I mean, you would hope it was be all societies, but then the other part is like maybe it's superstition, like a lot of people don't like, dead man's gun, dead man's hat, dead man's whatever, you know what I mean? Like maybe that $83 is not so tempting when you know it came from a dead person, and people might feel like actually extra superstitious about that.
That's a very good point, man. Yeah. So the next one is from Yusuf. He left a few interesting comments. These are like one of the longer ones. The other ones won't be as long, so we will go through them a lot quicker. But this one was really interesting. Yusuf says, assuming the cause of death would be falling and dying, the official story, he leaves 3 points here. So the first point is, I don't think your bones would be scattered far away from each other, and it would be actually easy to find your remains if it really is the case. I can't remember who said, but a guide maybe said that there are no animals who would eat large bones in that jungle. Well, the other commenters addressed this, and they said that there were jaguars and things like that would actually eat those bones. Now, the second point Yusuf made was that the back would also been with your remains, and cameras and your things would not also be properly arranged as how the indigenous woman found it, referring to the back with like everything laid out in it neatly. It's crazy because she said that the bag wasn't there the day before, which is, what the hell is that? And then an indicator that should motivate authorities to crack the case. I agree. Third point, how would shorts would fold itself and be placed on a rock? Apparently, this was not the case. Apparently, the shorts were not neatly folded. From my research, that was not the case. Because they were found like in a more scattered manner. Now, what left me asking is the deleted picture that cannot be retrieved. They actually said that computer is needed to do that. From that itself should also motivate authorities to crack the case. If I were to be asked, my eyes and fingers would be pointing at the same guide who found the bones and shoe. And Juan, the same Juan, found something about the British night bag that was found in their room, which was actually with them when they're hiking, and the guide was the last person to enter their room. And then we have a reply. There may not be animals capable of eating bones, but it doesn't stop them carrying them away. I once saw a whole chicken carcass seemingly moving on its own, only to see a rat change its position from behind in an attempt to drag it away. So, dude, in your opinion, I think from these 3 points, the one that we should be addressing is, well, I guess 2 points, but for this comment, let's just stop at the bones not getting scattered, because let's remember that the bones were scattered all over the place, like they were found in like different locations far from each other. So how is that a possibility in your opinion?
No, I mean that's actually the most credible part of the case. I mean, compared to like the bag or all the belongings being all in one place. No, I mean it's a place with a massive amount of rainfall, and we're talking about like a body of water that's moving sediment, just constant. It's a conveyor belt of sediment and rocks and everything else going downstream. Like water is enormously destructive. I mean, just leave some broken glass on a beach and see how fast that gets smoothed into something else, or where sand comes from, right? So no,
Yeah.
I don't at all doubt that even if they were murdered, you just dump that body in a river like that where they have
Mm.
that much rainfall. You know what I mean? It's like maybe sometimes I think people underestimate. I don't know if you've ever seen like a Central American river, or just a massive river anywhere. Like it'll wreck anything.
Yeah, I bet. The next comment comes from Sean P7195. I've always felt the photos were being used to fire the flash on the camera. The time frame when they took those night photos matches with the nighttime helicopter search mission, which was April 8th. Perhaps they could hear it in the background and thought that the flash could get their attention. The photos were fired rapidly and were not focused on anything in particular. At one point, Kris stepped in front of the camera and she may have been yelling or moving about. The bra in the back is nothing. It was the heat, rain, humidity was probably chafing bad, and they took them off at some point. Because I want to stop here. A lot of people found it suspicious that they took off their bras and put them in the backpack. I don't think that's suspicious. I think, if you're like
No.
if you're like a woman stuck in that situation, probably gonna end up doing that. Finishing the
By
comment.
the way,
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
I'll
Yeah.
say even as a dude, I mean,
Yeah.
you know, TMI, but I mean, I think we've all gotten chafing before from our undergarments
Yeah.
and certain, especially when it's wet. Like, dude, that's the worst. I stopped wearing swimsuits that had like a certain liner
Yeah.
because it was just brutal, you know.
Exactly, dude. Yeah, I know that. So finishing the comment, Lisanne was taking the photos and may have ran about to try to get out of the jungle canopy for the flash to penetrate more and possibly fell, easy to do in jungle and especially at night, snapping her leg. Either way, this seems to be the last day of life for at least Lisanne. Kris may have packed up everything into one bag and made a final attempt at survival and died of hunger, delirium, dehydration within the next couple of days or less. I think this comment is pretty self-explanatory. I don't necessarily want to stop here. I do find it a fairly credible line of thinking that maybe they were using the pictures to maybe get attention on April 8th, but I don't think we can really pinpoint to that. More interesting comments from Jamie Costa. How anybody can put any credibility to the phone logs is beyond me. The phone, the phone logs that we can sort of know that, oh, this phone was used on then, and then Lisanne's phone died on the 5th, etc., etc. So Jamie Costa says, how anybody can put any credibility on the phone logs is beyond me. The phones were covered with multiple fingerprints, and the bad guys and other people had over 2 months to easily make the logs. I can duplicate those logs on my iPhone 4 in just a few minutes. Also, credible witnesses at Casa Pedro saw them returning to Boquete. Y'all being played, silly. So, just in general, I guess I want to ask for your opinion, dude. Would you think the perps would actually go as far as to potentially fake the phone logs to make it seem that they were trying to contact the authorities? But if they did, wouldn't they try to make more phone calls on the first day?
Yeah, it's all this freaking work, you know. I mean, to me, it's like I don't feel like that these criminal groups that are being suspected. This is like a lot of forensic backtracking and even knowing. By the way, like this will come up. People are like, well, on that same topic. Well, they made them, they kidnapped them and they made them dial, the Dutch
Yes.
911. How would you even know? How would you even know? I had no idea until this case that 112 was even an international. You know what I mean? Just stuff like that where I feel like it's just way too granular. I just wanted to backtrack for a second.
Yeah.
The other person right before this, I actually really liked their kind of comprehensive, plausible theory for it did a good job, I thought, at tying everything in. So I'm actually much more inclined
Mm.
towards that theory than like all this suspicion of the phone logs. Like I feel like the phone logs are maybe, even compared to the photos and things like that, the least suspicious part of it.
Yeah, I agree. Next comment would be from Maribeth Maratori. I think the girls went off the trail to swim at some waterfalls and removed their bras to swim. At some point on their return, they both fell into a deep chasm and perhaps broke an ankle, pelvis, etc. They tried to use their phones but couldn't get any reception. They may have used the red bags with sticks to try to raise phones up to get a reception. Obviously, they were in a very secluded area, and their signal attempts to try to cry out, make a SOS with toilet paper, use flash and mirror was to no avail. When the rains came in, it might have filled the chasm with water, mud, and debris. I think Kris was deceased once her phone was not accosted with the correct pin. Lisanne held on a little longer and succumbed a few days later. She packed everything back into the bag. I believe she took some pictures of Kris and herself, but the parents didn't release those photos to the public as they were quite graphic. The varying decomposition of the bones is probably due to where the bones ended up. Kris' pelvis was in the sunlight, while Lisanne's body may have been more buried for a time but uncovered due to more rain. The denim shorts may have been removed to swim, although I think the fact that they were zipped buttoned points to Kris wearing them. They eventually washed down river during the separation of the body. The backpack floated and ended up on a bank, a very tragic accident that reminds us how quickly Mother Nature can take lives and how important it is to be prepared. Now, I know you'll want to definitely add to this comment a few points that I want to highlight from this comment. The first would be the fact that wait, let's see here. Yeah, the first thing I want to talk about is, do you think that maybe because we don't have the entire released photos, we have pictures missing. I don't think we have any pictures missing from April 1st, but maybe we have. I don't know. We definitely have some pictures missing. So maybe there are pictures of, the girls actually documenting to some extent what had happened, but maybe the family members didn't want to release that. What do you think about, that particular line of thinking?
Yeah, it's interesting. That doesn't come up as much. I mean, that one guy, his good breakdown, his take on it was that just based on his own experience with the exact same model of camera that he bought to investigate it, he felt like they must have just gotten that camera as like a gift or something. Like they were pretty early in the usage of it. And the reason why he said that was the way the photos are numbered and the way it makes folders along with that numbering.
Yeah.
There's no way of like dialing it back. So once you start using that camera, it will. Does that make sense? You do a numbering.
Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, because of that, the numbering was really low. So it looked like it had only really basically been maybe just used on this trip.
2 months, I believe. Because
yeah.
I've seen the same video. I think he said that the number folder was 102, and I think it starts off with 100, and then every month it turns. So I think
it iterates up. Yeah. That's which I do wonder how many photos he took. Maybe he says so, but sometimes I know, like, from my own experience, because I'm like the I love my cameras.
Yeah.
My point and shoots sometimes will iterate based on a certain number of photos, so not just the month, but it'll
Okay.
actually, like, you know what I mean. So that's what I'm not entirely sure about, because I know, like, my other cameras, they'll actually do it sometimes based on, like, X number of photos.
Yeah.
But whatever. Yeah, I don't know. It's worth thinking about, but I feel like, don't you wonder if maybe one of those other authorities would say, well, the family's not saying, but like we have this other stuff that shows, like, I feel like that wouldn't get left out.
Yeah.
That would get leaked.
That's actually a really good point. Let's jump to another comment from TK20. I don't understand one thing. Why not a single message left for loved ones? No video, no diary entry, no note, no text, no anything. If they were at the point where they were lost, how in God's name would they not have tried to leave some sort of a message? It's not like you go from being lost to incoherent due to lack of food and water in 1 second. There is a lot of time to think, to try to contact loved ones, etc. That makes no sense to me. When you realize you are in a serious situation, you would do anything to reach out to those who could help, who would care. That is so damn strange to me. I feel like they just got lost and met their fate in a variety of ways as a result of that. But then I just think about what we would have also seen if they were indeed lost. Makes no darn sense. So yeah, I agree, dude. I agree with the sentiment. Like nothing, like literally not a single, like the Canon power shot, it was always operational. Like the phones, yeah, it was a mess. You know, pins, incorrect pins, they're dying, checking for reception, the phone's dying, batteries dying. Yeah, it's a mess with the phones. But dude, the camera had plenty of gas. Not a single pic, man. What do you make of that?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I don't disagree. The one thing I would say is, I can think of some recent news events where, like, people have almost frozen to death, and they're like they got some people. I think this past winter, they were on their way somewhere. This happens like more often than you would think. They're on their way somewhere. Their truck breaks down in the middle of the snow, and then for like 3 days, they're like eating ketchup packets or something and waiting to get found in their truck, and like they survive. And I'm always like, so case in point, that they had a phone, they had whatever, they probably had a camera or something. Like, did they ever leave? They're like, oh my God, we're gonna die, and this is our last. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
This is our last message to the world. Or
yeah.
to do that, would you basically be admitting that you're gonna die? I mean, is that why that doesn't happen? Because the
Oh,
people, you
dude,
know what I mean? It's
excellent,
like,
excellent. Yeah.
yeah, that's my thought, is maybe that's like where you lose hope,
Mm,
and then it is like you're kind of like maybe people don't want to do that.
excellent, dude. That's fantastic. I've never had that like perspective. That's
But
very, yeah.
but the commenter isn't wrong. So I'm not. I want to make that clear. Is that, yeah, like they're not wrong. It would make a perfect sense to do it, but that could be like the sort of like human logic reason why they
Yes,
don't.
dude. I would have never came up with this line of thinking. So that's fantastic that you've done. Let's move to another comment from Saudiel Bamber. Just maybe they were too confident and ventured too far and got lost. I know there is a lot of weird evidence, but none of it points to foul play other than the missing photo. But maybe it was the cops who deleted it for some reason, but they keep mentioning there are no big animals in the area, which is false. There are panthers and jaguars, lol. Not sure why people don't think they exist there. So we already talked about the jaguars, but yeah, dude, I just want to address this. This is why I put this comment in this presentation, is because, dude, literally, what are the evidence that would point, like credible evidence in your opinion, that could potentially point to foul play? And before you answer, because I think you need to like maybe think about it for a few moments. For me personally, I think like one of the early things that came up was the bleaching of the bones. I can't really recall. Maybe I believe the pelvic bone of Kris had some sort of a bleaching that sort of could indicate that it was used in some sort of a ritual. But I don't know. I would need to like really see the bone and really know about like bones and bleaching to make any further comments. So I can't say that that's a credible. I'm not well informed in that line of thinking, so I can't say that it's like credible things that point to foul play. Yeah, picture 509, I do agree. That to me like screams out something's not right here. The picture that's connecting the daytime pictures of April 1st and nighttime pictures of April 8th is missing. What are the chances? Like, what are the. Dude, I have. I feel really strongly that 509 holds a lot of answers, not necessarily to what have happened, but would answer a lot of these questions for us. 509 is definitely very interesting. I would pay a lot of money to see 509. But other than 509, do you see anything else? Suspicious? Like that. Of course, there are a lot of suspicious things in the story, but anything like any concrete things that point to foul play other than 509?
No, I mean, if anything, there's a lot against it, but you have the eyewitnesses that saw them on their way. You don't really have anything reliable pointing at foul play. I mean, I think to your point, to find some other part of the body that did have like obvious cutting marks or, like trauma that was from a knife or a machete or a bullet or something like that, that would tilt things the other direction. As far as the bleaching, I think I mentioned this in one of the other episodes, but living here in a house where I've been in my house for about 10 years and I have stuff now that I've bought 10 years ago. So like seeing what the sun, like I don't even live in a place that has a lot of rain, but I live in a place that has like some pretty bright sun. And dude, just the sun and like being outside will just destroy stuff.
Yeah.
Like I have like plastic stuff that hasn't even lasted a year because it's been out in the sun, and you touch it now and it's totally fragile and brittle. I have a shovel that I'm almost ready to break in half, and it's because it's been outside for
Yeah, but
about 10 minutes.
okay, but just as a thought in my head, we would have completely skipped out on this. And actually, what you've just said will sort of contradict everything, because let's remember the backpack was found in mint condition, like almost 2 months from the
Yeah, no,
disappearance.
that's a good point. And I remember when we went down this, I even went to the point of looking up the brand of the bag and like the materials it was made out of to see like, well, could there be something special about that it would do better? And no, like you're right, it is contradictory to what I'm saying, other than like if it had been if someone had found it and sat on it for a while.
Yes, that
Yeah.
I think it was sad. Like the fact that, dude, do you really think that it just washed there all neatly packed in the rice field, and one day it was there and the other day it was not there, and the Nagabi woman just found it and it just naturally preserved itself in mint condition in that rice field, and also it has teleportation skills because it's one day it's not there and another day it's there. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, man.
Yeah, and the phones and the camera are all working. My poor phone. That sorry, we
So
have to bleep that out.
yeah.
Whoops, sorry, potty mouth. Yeah, my poor phone that was in the pool for 5 seconds or 10 seconds. Oh, that thing's hosed.
Yeah.
But somehow these three different devices are perfectly fine. But on the other hand, like I've had a radio scanner fall in the bathtub and stop working, and then like it did work, or like my
Mm,
kid's tablet got wet and we were like, "Whoa," and then no, and then like we waited for a day,
yeah.
and then it was fine. So I don't know, sometimes I guess it just depends on the electronics and whether it was powered on
Yeah.
and whether you turned it off in time. So maybe that was the saving grace.
Yeah, I think one of the comments will address this particular detail, so we may end up skipping that one. The next one comes from Bobby Gonzalez. These are really country people tribes, mostly indigenous people, the guides and scouts. None of them look intelligent. I say that respectfully and not as a put down. So, how is it possible all these country folk managed to manipulate both phones, permanent delete photos, etc., etc.? Oh, and after 2.5 months later, their backpacks turn up with most of their possessions totally intact, their devices included, in perfect working order, everything, also money. And you would think that maybe this guy is Bobby Gonzalez is trying to rationale the accident theory, but nope. He ends the comment with foul play cover up in all caps, and so much more, drain the Panamanian swamp, referring to the corruption. So he's not going for the accident theory. Bobby is not doing that, but he does bring a good line of thinking for us. We already addressed the backpack, so let's not do that. But let's address the cover up stuff. I don't think the guides or the Nagobi people would have the equipment or the know-how to do all of the metadata tampering. So it only leaves super sophisticated organ traffickers, which, as you've said, like, is there even a obviously, I think that's happening in Panama, but I mean, I don't know if they're up to that. I think they're more like into like cutting people's like livers out, rather than manipulating pictures. So that leaves authorities, but I don't know. And we already talked that maybe authorities will do that. So I don't know. I think we I just answered all the sentiments. Anything else you want to add before we jump to the next one?
I'm disagreeing with you. Yeah,
Okay.
I'll just agree that I'll agree that yeah, it does seem like it would have to have been the authorities with that level of
Yeah.
like we'll find out what program it was, which was probably Photoshop that
Yeah.
accessed it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so the next comment is a smaller one. So strange for Lisanne to take these last photos from that far. And then the reply is not strange in the slightest. She was taking distance photos of the area they had already covered dozens. They covered dozens of selfies. So I don't even know what to make of this comment. You want to add something or nah? I mean, maybe you understand it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess just saying like the photo, trying to insinuate that there was something fishy about the photo taking pattern, but no, I mean, if you're a photographer, you take, depending what kind of photographer you are, and you have a lot of memory. Like I take exhaustive photos of something, and I take, you
Okay.
know, yeah. So I don't find anything suspicious.
Gotcha. The next comment is also a conversation. So it starts out with the user called Let's Investigate. She says, great analysis. I think the missing picture 509 is key to solve this case. We have comments exactly. And yeah, because if the police or whoever deleted off their computer, then it means it solves everything. And then I think that the fact that the image 509 was deleted by software is the real important thing, because this means that that was a third party intervening. No missing or accident in the jungle. All was planned and with professional people. Maybe the government involved, because Panama is one of the most corrupt countries in the world. You ever heard Panama Papers? Uh, in the last in the land of corruption, Panama. So basically, I think we addressed every single point in here, but it's interesting that people are still focusing on 509. So, as I've said, yeah, I do agree that probably the one thing that could bring us the closest to actually finding the answers is 509. And we already talked about that maybe it's not as simple as it sounds, that 509 could only be deleted by by software. I mean, I'm not a technician, so I only have to take other people's words for it. And I mean, I'm sure it's not as simple as that. So we could like move to the next one, which is another conversation. Mar says, I think it's kind of weird that all their stuff was found packed in a backpack, basically untouched by nature. Two phones, a camera. If they keep it by their side all the time, where are they? If someone collected it, packed, and took the backpack, why would they then leave the backpack months later out in the open to be found? Maybe someone found them, took the photos, took the backpack, and just left. And then found out about the girls months later, felt guilty, and quote unquote, found the backpack, and maybe they are too scared to come forward with the information, or just don't want any trouble from the authorities. Then we have some comments. The taxi driver died like a year later. He was found face down in a shallow puddle, and the authorities stated the official cause of death as drowning. The taxi driver is part of the theories that, looking at the time, we won't have time to talk about, but maybe when we return to this case sometime in the future. Another reply is taken account that the backpack reappeared when the $30,000 reward was active in Panama. That amount of money can make a lot of things happen. And then a reply, yeah, I agree that too. So yeah, dude, I guess anything you want to add from this conversation?
No, I mean it's. I do agree with that person that the backpack might be the one of the two things I think was pretty obviously manipulated, and I actually think that's not a bad theory that like the person found it and then like it got too hot. I mean the other thing I guess is it is interesting to think that maybe if someone was, let's suppose the Panamanian government was like finding these things and sort of like aggregating evidence, but for whatever reason didn't want to like say what they'd found yet until there was like, I guess, maybe a more clean way to wrap everything up. I will say that like it does kind of seem like if you were going to go with the direction of a conspiracy, they did kind of like just find enough that you wouldn't really have a reason to pressure them to keep looking for anything.
Exactly. That's a good point. I think we can jump to the next one. Uh, Jorge Carrera says, I think photo 509 could be deleted by Panamanian authorities after the backpack was given to them. Even something like a blurry photo could have been interpreted negatively by people and media, and so would affect tourism. So maybe it was only a blurry picture, but enough to give lots of trouble to their economy. Like, this is a good comment. This is why I included it, because I think this is a really good point. Maybe 509 was deleted by the authorities, but maybe 509 didn't necessarily have the killer's face in it or anything like that, or like a strange man. Maybe it was just something really blurry. Maybe it was actually I don't know, Kris taking a picture or of like her injury, or Lisanne. You know what I mean? Maybe it was something like that, and maybe the authorities were like, we can't have this picture, go live. This is not good for us. You know what I mean? That makes sense to me. What do you think, dude?
Yeah, I guess so. Two ways of looking at it. One is, I guess I can never underestimate how paranoid people could be about something. I would say that realistically, though, in terms of like whether almost anything would kill tourism for them, I have to say, like, I mean, there's been some horrible, very public crimes against tourists in lots of places, including like Jamaica, for instance. So Jamaica is a place that, for people on the East Coast, um, is often like a big tourist destination because like it's easy to get to, it's pretty affordable. There's a lot of like infrastructure aimed at tourists there, and there's been horrible crimes against tourists there. Same thing for Mexico for U.S. tourists. I mean, there's been plenty of like it's not even hidden, right? Like so like for all that, I sometimes kind of doubt that something like this would be so devastating to Panamanian tourism.
Yeah.
But then again, like maybe that doesn't mean that someone might not be stupid enough to think that though, even like where it matters. So one of those officials could be like, "Oh my God, this is gonna wreck us," and like it probably honestly would wreck you more to cover it up because now like we're all super suspicious if that's the case. But
Mm.
like I don't, you know what I mean? It's like I guess, look, even Richard Nixon had the same thing happen to him where like he basically screwed his own presidency out of the same kind of paranoia when if he had just let the thing happen, he would have been fine.
Exactly.
So I guess you can never underestimate that.
That's Yeah. I mean, good points, man. Okay, the next one is quite long, and it entails a lot of information about uh, a man who lives in Panama, and yeah, I think we could definitely skip on this one. I mean, it's super long. Oh no, it's actually really good. Oh yeah, I remember why I included this Michelle Tracy comment. So Michelle Tracy, but it says hi Adam. Okay, Adam. Oh, okay, whatever. So the one thing is that's really interesting about this comment. This is why I included it. I want to read a certain part of it. So this person is saying, something many don't talk about is we had an earthquake the following day that lasted about 55 seconds, and this could have been where the injury took place. The trails are not marked well at all and should truly not be taken without a tour guide. I won't even run after my dog in the jungle because it happens so fast, losing your way. Yeah, and then a lot of things that I think we already covered more or less. But yeah, the fact that the earthquake happened during one of the days when they were missing, I believe it was April 4th, if I'm not mistaken. So, dude, there was an earthquake. You have any thoughts about that?
Well, I do live in the land of the earthquakes, literally. Um, I don't put a lot of stock in that, but I do put stock in the trail is dangerous, jungle's dangerous. That trail, like dude, it looks challenging to me. Like I said, the first
Yeah.
half of my life I spent backpacking and doing extreme, like hikes like that. And dude, it did not look easy, and it looked really slippery. And then yeah, just to a lot of people's point, it looked like there's a lot of places where you could easily like lose your footing and go off into like a really deep rock filled chasm.
Yeah, exactly. We have a comment from David Aikman. I have read somewhere recently that there was a photo showing Kris' head face in addition to the shot of her hair. However, Kris' family decided not to release it for personal reasons. Not sure how credible it is, but that's what I read. Anyone else heard this? Apologies, I don't have a source. So yeah, I don't. I've never heard about this. Have you ever heard about this?
Nah.
Yeah, exactly. So probably let's move to the next comment. But it's an interesting thought. Maybe the family is saying, "Do not disclose certain images." Alma Mater says the guide was very attracted to that kind of fair-skinned girls. Another woman time before had written about him, not recommending him for women. He has a farm in the jungle and walks around with a machete. The pictures were perhaps to mark the place where they were? Question mark. One was already dead, and the other couldn't move much because the crazy guide had cut one of her feet. He may have kept them trapped. You can't survive that long without food. So, this alma mater woman is actually referring to the like we're linking the shows. Remember when we were looking to the on TripAdvisor to that one bad review of Feliciano Gonzalez? I think she's definitely referring to that comment. I mean, we already talked about on the previous episodes. I think we could definitely move to the next comment because we still have quite a bit of them, and we've been at it for like an hour and 10 minutes. So let's keep going. Wendy Romero says, "Thank you for doing a second video on this case." Well, this is, I believe, the fifth video now, so our pleasure, Wendy. I'm pretty fascinated. I personally believe that they fell down some sort of embankment and got hurt, then couldn't get themselves out without help. In my mind, the pictures are taken from below to the first document things, and eventually just use the camera flash for light. Such a sad story, self-explanatory. I know there are gonna be like bigger comments. Mojo Jojo, this one was a pretty crazy one. I think you'll want to react to Mojo Jojo's comment. The women were captured on the same day, not lost. The picture explains it all. Someone else is taking the pictures. Kris would have been smiling in the photos if you think about it, but she isn't. In one picture, it actually looks like her hands are tied behind her back. Look at the way her elbow is positioned and try to do the same. She is in front of some man-made shelter. Just look. Then with the back of the head picture, you can see other colors of hair different from Kris. But who's taking the pics? Plus, you find a missing foot and bones? 2 plus 2 equals 4, so do the math. Then what's up with the candy wrapper pics? 2 candy wrappers, 2 girls missing. It's like the pictures are giving us clues to figure out. So, dude, before I jump to the pics, your opinions on Mojo Jojo?
I don't know. Yeah, it just seems to be reading a lot into the situation. I mean, but like that's this case, right? It's a Rorschach.
This is the picture where she's apparently handcuffed. Kris, right? So if she, but by the way, this is 505. So if Kris is, by the way, for everyone who's listening to this on the podcast apps, you could just quickly jump to the YouTube. We're looking at the visual assets. This is the picture where Kris is apparently tied up. But the interesting part here is that this is 505 and this is 507. So if her hands are tied behind her back here, then this is her being captive already. So someone legit tied her hands behind her back and then untied it. And apparently she's not smiling here. So she's definitely captured. I mean, your thoughts?
Nah, yeah, I don't buy it. I mean, yeah, like you would have to untie her And then, I mean, when they're, I guess you can't really see her hands.
Wouldn't she just run away?
Yeah, I mean, I guess unless there's someone like up on the other side, but yeah, I don't know. I always feel like for these pictures, these theories about them, somehow being controlled and under someone's control in these situations. I always feel like most people are not that good actors.
I mean, it would probably would have happened. By the way, these pictures right here, I just want to quickly mention this picture right here and this picture right here. There are theories that they're photoshopped, but I clearly see we won't have time to go through those theories. So it's good actually. The two theories we could definitely return to when we do another breakdown of this case. And these are like new things that we've never talked about. So it's not like we're rehashing the same information, right? But it would have to pretty much mean that okay, maybe it makes sense. Maybe these are Photoshop pictures. Maybe these are not existing ones. But then the perpetrators purposely leave a picture where Kris is like tied behind her back. Then, like, this is most likely like anecdotal. So let's move to some more comments. Tito Verte. I don't understand, you guys. You realized that the camera was manipulated by software, and you still considering that the girl's just missing in the jungle. Come on. Well, we addressed that. It's probably not as simple as that. We have another comment. Yeah, the jaguars, pumas, oxletos in the jungle there. I don't know why they say there are no animals able to eat human. I honestly think they just died because they got lost. And I do think the one that might survive was Kris and not Lisanne. During a period of distress, you can forget even the easiest things like a password. Well, pretty self explanatory comment. Okay, so we have a bigger comment with a lot of points, so I want to quickly go through them. I'm leaning to Danny Hudson says, I'm leaning towards foul play. The bag wasn't weathered. We addressed that already. That's definitely suspicious. The girls kept a journal, so if they got lost, they would document it live on their phones or by pictures. We addressed that. Like, yeah, okay, this guy is bringing up really good points so far. The third point, the whole bodies aren't found. Nature doesn't serve a limb like that. We addressed this as well. Fourth point, the girls called emergency services 4 hours in the phone. From that point would show more activity. I didn't understood this point. Then fifth point, people keep their phones with them at all times. Yeah, but what does that mean? Sixth point, too many fingerprints on the bag to be a lost bag. Yeah, we addressed that. Like the bag is definitely manipulated. Who put the camera back in the bag only to take photos in the dark? Not the girls. This is an interesting thought. Then two more. Who tried to get into the phone, not the owner of the phone, and then photo of blood here and the other photo are taken not by the owner of the camera, therefore someone else took it. I mean, not really sure if that's like concrete written in stone. Also, I have these thoughts. Why was the guide sure they were missing? This is a good point. Why did he stay in their room for 30 minutes? How come it was him who found the boot and the bones, fingerprints identified, some other stuff? Now, from this long comment, I want to ask you just a quick few questions. So we addressed a lot of these points, but the one that I found very interesting, dude, how was the guide so sure that the girls were missing? Does that line of thinking makes any sense to you?
Um,
Maybe he just
yeah,
had an arrangement and tried to check up on the girls.
yeah, like I guess maybe they had that. It's true because we need a little more information, but from what I understand, maybe they had been more consistent in their behavior, and I don't know. It is a little odd. I mean, to the point that he basically broke into their house, right?
Exactly. I mean, that's pretty
Yeah.
strange. Let's go through some more comments. We still have a little bit of them left. J Bar says girls did not get lost. It was not girls who attempted emergency calls. If it was them, why didn't they record a video message? Why didn't they send SMS to parents? Eventually, it would go through at least. They would hope so. It makes no sense for the girls to have access to phones and turn them on only at certain time of the day. As the pin they were forced to give their pins to abductors, on day 6 abductor lost the pin somehow, and it's why a few attempts without pin. Maybe he was trying to remember. Okay, the reason there was no messages or videos is because they were no longer in possession of their phones. Girls were abducted and phones were confiscated. Abductors tried to make an impression that the girls got lost and tried to call for them. That explains the strange schedule of the attempted calls. Abductors probably could make them from out of reception area only at certain times of the day. Think about the guide. He probably hid the phone somewhere in the jungle and went there a couple of times a day without a risk to look suspicious. That also explains why there is no message from the girls to parents. Abductors can't speak their language, so can't send a message without raising a suspicion. Girls did not have their phones after 2 p.m. Yada yada yada. I think the only thing we have to address here is that, do you think that Feliciano Gonzalez would actively hide phones in non-reception areas of the jungle and then every day at the same time, because the calls were made at similar times, go there and make these red herring I don't want to make it sound like we're making fun out of J bars, because it's
No,
definitely
no.
it's a cool theory, and trust me, like my episode 71 grandiose theory was crazy and all over the place as well. But like, do you think Feliciano actively went to the jungle where he stashed the phones to make red herring non-reception phone calls later on for the phones to make more sense?
I mean, yeah, it's so much work, man. And then these are people who have to pay bills. Like they're not. This is the part of the world where $5 is a lot of money.
Yeah.
So to miss out on some major part of your work week. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's true. People, I guess people have gotten themselves into situations, so I won't totally rule it out. Someone they mess up and they kill somebody or they do something, and then all of a sudden you are having to do like ridiculous stuff to try to cover it up and dig that hole deeper and deeper. But I don't know. Yeah, I mean, like every day, and like what? No one saw him. No one saw him do it. No
Yeah.
one was like, "Oh, this guy is hiking up into the," normally he's got hikers with it or that are paying him, but for some reason, for a week, he just went up there by himself, deep into the mountains.
Yeah, I mean, maybe if you could dig his work schedule, we could find some crucial details, right? Let's move to the next one. There's a very interesting con to the drowned in the river theory. Apparently, a guy went missing around that area sometime before the girls, like a year or more, and he indeed had fallen into the river and drowned. They found his body same time later, fully intact, not little bones here and there. No, they found his body, and apparently the river isn't that dangerous around the time when the girls were there. Some people said it's basically a creek during some seasons, so it wouldn't have any force to drag a body, and it definitely wouldn't be able to tear it apart like that. This is a really good point, and actually, she is referring to, I believe, a British man, and one of the later commenters will mention this British man. But like, your thoughts, like quickly, dude, your thoughts on,
Yeah.
uh,
What
yeah.
what was the time frame that she said that this body was found?
Let's
I
see
mean, how much
here.
later?
They found his body sometime later. Sometime later.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's pretty vague. I mean, I'm not saying it's like you're going to instantly get eviscerated by this creek, but I mean, and by the way, who says that that one creek is the only body of water that they were dragged in? Because in theory, they could have decomposed up in the hill somewhere, and then like those. I don't know. Even around here, when it rains hard, the hills have like little waterfalls coming off of
Yeah.
them, so they very well could have been dragged across a whole manner of terrain. And then, yeah, I mean, I don't know. They said it's the same time of year or whatever, but I mean, we all know that
Mm.
different bodies of water are far more intense during, like different times of the year, and even off after a storm. Like even our famous concrete lined LA River turns into something that is way more dangerous than it is the rest of the year when it's just like a puddle.
Exactly. Dude, that's amazing. Let's jump to another one. Alex Humphrey, a 29, UK citizen, disappeared in Boquete area in 2009. Maybe we can return to this when we eventually do decide to cover more really interesting theories about this case in later episodes, but definitely not next week. We could definitely look at Alex Humphrey. I did Google him, and he did in fact go missing there in Boquete area in 2009. And for everyone who's interested, 5 years ago, a British man actually went missing. So in the same town. So that's pretty interesting. Ken Lee says perhaps a main character in this case, the guide, and a few others already got to the young woman by April 3rd, because that's when the phone activity summary states he started searching on April 3rd. Yeah, so basically, from the little infographic that we looked at on, I believe, episode 70 or 71, it said that Feliciano started searching on the 3rd of April. There were no more emergency call attempts after the morning of the 3rd. The phone signal checks on Kris' iPhone on April 4th and 6th all seem scheduled. 10th hour in the morning and again at around 1:40 p.m. on each day. These can't have been phone actions by people lost in the wild. A bit more on the guide. On April 2nd, went into the room where the women were lodging for what? I think we addressed that. The village woman who found the backpack handed it to the guide. Guide was in the party that found the bones. There were other parties that were searching, but it was his group that found it, and then a wink emoji. The woman could have been captured by April 3rd, marched off on a side trail and taken by a truck away from Boquete or brought to a ranch near the jungle itself. They may have only been murdered weeks, months later, and a few bones were scattered about either for the reward or to have the case closed by the careless Panama authorities based on the lost and died theory. It's almost a certainty we will never know what happened exactly, as no one related to this case, including the parents, seem to want to pursue it further. Perhaps the suspicion or knowledge of what happened to the daughters is just too painful for the parents to want to demand for a relook into the case. The Dutch authorities also seemed like lame ducks, not able to exert pressure on Panama to investigate properly. And the time of the disappearance and discovery of the bones and backpack. So, out of this long comment, a few points I want to ask you. The first point is, what do you think about the theory that they were actually kidnapped, driven somewhere completely different, but later on some bones were scattered about just so that the case would be closed? And the second point would be, do you think that the family members may like sort of lean towards that something tragic had happened, in a sense that like foul play, and they were like kidnapped and tortured and murdered, and they just don't want to find out? 2 points. What do you think, man?
I was wondering when we were talking about this just now, what makes these tourists so valuable? So for all these plots, these like, oh, they were kidnapped, they were abducted, they were murdered, this thing happened, that thing happened. Like, what? We're talking about a part of the world where there are so many people living in poverty who could disappear and no one would ever know, right? I mean, case in point, the indigenous people, where
Yeah.
just like indigenous people are taken advantage of all over the world by organized crime and cartels and things like that. Why would you paint a big target on your back? But you know what I mean? Short of like they have some kind of like that goes to the other cases where they say, oh, the person was sold into white slavery, or they went, they're working in a brothel now. But that's clearly not the case here, right? We're reasonably certain they're not chained to a bed somewhere
Bones
in some
are.
brothel.
Yeah.
Right. So It's you know what, I guess what I'm trying to say is, and this isn't normally my point of view because you know me, um,
Yeah.
but I kind of feel like this turns into like one of those boogeyman stories. Like this is the kind of thing that you know maybe first right, here I go. I'm going back to that to almost my original criticism of them. I'm not criticizing them, but I'm saying sometimes I wonder if this is like the first world version or the developed world kind of having these like fears of the developing world, and for sure stuff happens, people get killed. So I'm the same person that said tourists get killed down in Central America and South America, et cetera, all the time. But it's like these
Yeah.
elaborate theories. You know what I mean? Like oh, by the way, like I think the other comment about like, well, the timing is all wrong, and why would they call always in the? It's like, well, wait a minute. So like this person with this massive conspiracy, like, freaking forgot to randomize their calling times. Like that's
Yeah.
the big flaw. Anyway, yeah, I guess
Yeah.
maybe that
That's dude.
summarizes what I'm
Yeah.
saying.
Exactly, man. That last point was really good. Okay, let's jump to another comment. So yeah, we're jumping to Laurie King. If someone deleted the photo to mask their identity, why not just keep the camera? If I was guilty, I wouldn't trust that computer forensics wouldn't be able to restore the picture. I'd keep the camera. That's a really good point, Laurie King, and I agree, and I'm sure Glenn agrees as well. We have a really long comment. I knew this one was going to be real long. We have a few of them still left quite long. I'll try to go through the most interesting points really quickly. I believe a slightly different scenario. The girls hiked the trail taking pictures, and the reason they stopped taking pictures of themselves on the trail is because they turned around to head back. Usually, you don't take pictures on the return that much, which makes sense, especially when you're just tired and you want to go home. Somewhere on the return journey, almost at the end, they bumped into their kidnappers. They were taken off the trail, possibly into a nearby hut or by car to another location in the jungle. They were able to try to call 911 but had no coverage. Around 16:30 p.m. This explains why there is a 20-minute gap between the two girls calling. One had the opportunity at 16:30 and another at 16:50. After that, they no longer had the opportunity as they hid their cell phones from their kidnappers successfully. There's a whole explanation about how they managed to escape on the 6th. It says uh, they find the cave, and on the 6th they're escaped from the kidnappers, and it's like a real it's like a really like a good true crime story after that. But there was one point that I want to address. I don't want to read the entirety of it. I mean, it's highly speculative, but the one point that I did find interesting, maybe they did actually not, what do you think about this theory, man? Maybe they do take pictures at the summit and they don't take any pictures going back from the trail. You know what I mean? Let's just quickly jump to the pics, once more. Let's say this is, oh wait, yeah, oh crap, yeah, I'm just going through a pics. Yeah, this is the last pic. Let's say this is in fact the last pick, 508. Maybe they turn back and they're going back towards the Bouquet village, Bouquete, but they don't take any pictures there. You know what I mean? And that's when they run into kidnappers. I mean, your thoughts without stopping here for too long?
Yeah, I mean, wait. So are they saying the kidnappers marched them back up the trail again?
Uh,
So these are like kidnappers that love to go on
Probably.
hikes.
Yeah.
Okay, I, I guess I can't buy it. But I will agree with the especially because as we mentioned before, they seemed incredibly underprepared for this hike, and time was at a premium, so they for sure were pushing the envelope already. I do agree with the sentiment that at least in their particular situation, yeah, it's like why take photos
Uh,
on the way back when the light is already failing, um,
Yeah,
and you need to
exactly,
get back.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a really good point. Another comment from everything, the user everything. Why none of them wrote at least a single note on their phone? Replies very odd indeed. And someone says to save battery, perhaps. So really quickly, dude, do you think the reason why they didn't wrote anything on their phones was maybe to perhaps save the battery life? I mean, you made really good psychological comments earlier on that maybe leaving those types of comments sort of makes you already, it's like it makes you feel like you lost the battle already, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would guess you're right. I would put it in that same vein. It is kind of interesting though that was a good point. Someone said that they could have sent an SMS message and maybe that would have gone through when the other calls didn't, but maybe they just gave up once like the calls
Yeah.
weren't going through.
Yeah, so just a handful of comments left. We're really gonna be done shortly. This is a bigger one, but I already know what it's about, so I'll just like summarize it. So basically, Wendy Romero at first said that I still lean towards an accident. I think Chris fell and got hurt first, and then the other girl eventually followed, trying to help her, and ended up getting injured as well. And then Sandra, with the quotations, I mean, like also says in the name, still here to see the duct tape. I mean, these are like the two commenters that I definitely know about, and they're pretty frequent. So I think I wanted to include them. But yeah, they just talk about how they believe that it was still not foul play. And Sandra's rationale was that I also think that something happened to Chris first, that she somehow got injured, and the girls got lost. Not sure what happened. Maybe Lisanne got injured at some point too, but there's also a huge chance that they died of dehydration and hypothermia. I don't think they starved to death though, because you can go quite some time without food. If they did find water, they very likely drank it, but they didn't have fire to cook it. So to boil the water, I think she meant. So that equals diarrhea, dehydration, and then death. So altogether, if you don't have survival skills, you simply die in that environment. I mean, I just wanted to include these comments because these are avid commenters, and it's I think we sort of lean towards that sentiment as well. I mean, I'm still leaning towards it. We need to like look into the Photoshop theory, to the two mafia guys who like were in the waterfalls with some women who looked like you know what I mean, Kris Kremers and Lisanne Froon. I still think we need to look at that for sure, but these are good thoughts. Another comment. Oh, look, this one is good. This is from, dude, if you can read it, just try to read it. This is from Ignacio Blas. So it says, Glenn Highcove, Enius irresponsible. This quella backpack. And I'm sorry, I can't read
Yeah,
Spanish.
yeah, yeah. I'll read it. I'll read it in Spanish.
Yeah.
So yeah, Glenn Highcove es un irresponsable. Sable, I think. The comment is not as zoomed in here. Dice, dice que la backpack encontrada tenía dinero y por eso did you say porque no? Yeah. So basically, I mean, he's saying that I said that because the backpack had the money. I deducted that that's why like it wasn't. My Spanish is not great. That it wasn't like a robbery. Anyway, he's kind of crapping all over me.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, I think he
probably
said Glenn
probably be good
Hickle.
to plug into the translator, but
Yeah.
um, I think it's the first time I've been called a irresponsible though. It's good, But by the way, I think we've been kind of not getting as much bad comments lately. So I don't know if that's a good thing or not. I'm sure after this show, there will be plenty of people outraged at some of my you know stances on this.
You're
But
very irresponsible, man, sometimes. You know what I mean?
maybe my opinion was not responsible this one, but yeah, I think that the sentiment was that there was. I'm just trying to see. Oh, yeah, Maybe we should just
We'll just
chucked it in the translator
yeah, maybe we
next
can
time.
yeah next time we can like actually
But I remember
find
that. I remember
yeah if you
that comment.
remember let's definitely try to find out what he said or maybe some of the comments could actually translate it and we would pin that comment. That would be pretty cool. So
Yeah.
anyone who translates it, we will pin that comment. Okay, so next. Sean Burke says Chris was. Oh, this one is great. You just everyone who's listening. I promise you, we're on the last stretch. But everyone just like kick back, relax, grab some popcorn. This was probably the most entertaining comment. So just kick back and just listen up. Chris was a narcissistic psychopath. Lisanne went on a holiday with her killer. Poor Lisanne was lured to her death by her supposed friend. It's basically the same premise as the Knox Kesher case in Italy. You know, Amanda Knox. Chris was consumed with pathological envy and acted out. The relief of killing her tormentor would have been overwhelming. The missing 509 is the beginning of the attack. Lisanne was killed initially fairly quickly. Chris then took her, tried to move her to sheltered location, most likely a cave. Chris would have amused herself by slowing cutting up the body. This was a fairly relaxed period of 4 to 5 days to do it nice and carefully. She would have eaten some small flesh parts of Lisanne also. Chris then casually placed various parts around the large areas at her own leisure. The narrative was created by Chris. It's Chris who has complete control. It's Chris who uses both mobiles. It's Chris who deliberately mistypes her own code into her phone. It was all about narcissistic control and power. When everything was placed in the final place, body parts, rucksacks, then Chris committed suicide. It's a sad tale of deranged narcissist who became obsessed with her empathic nemesis. Lisanne was more or less doomed from the moment Chris set eyes on her in the cafe back home. It was all planned going way back. You must focus on Kremers. So there is a response. Have you taken your meds today, Stephen King? Where in the hell would you come up with all of this? How could they have found a part of Chris Pelvis if she was still alive? Yeah, so I definitely don't want to make fun out of the whole situation, but just I guess sort of just to show the audience members that I think like Sean Burke literally like there are people literally just going voting for their local governments, you know what I mean? And this is like just living life like that, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy because like I think you said like some of the theories sound like a book. So, well, like I don't know, some of the theories sounded like a Hardy Brothers um mystery.
Yeah.
This one sounded like the movie Seven or something. Or it's funny they said Stephen King, but I think if it had been Stephen King, there would have been like a demon or a monster in there somewhere
Yeah,
too. Yeah.
exactly. Let's move just a handful left. The next one is oh yeah. Oh, so these are like the comments from the last episode. So yeah, we're literally almost done. These are like from 91. So these are from episode 91. York Hungan is like I'd be up for part two. Also, I think I heard on another channel someone mentioned the possibility of them stepping off the trail for a bit of smoke, a little bit of weed. They could have wanted to be out of sight of others and maybe away from where others could smell it. I guess the question would be how they brought weed overseas, etc. It wouldn't surprise me that the two college friends would smoke weed traveling abroad, though. Also, could have stepped off to use the bathroom or something. So, your
I
opinions, dude?
I laugh because where my wife is from, Belize, the big joke is about the American tourists that brought weed to Belize, and it's like it's. I laugh because it's stupid. Like you don't need to bring. You're taking it the wrong direction. Even though I know they're from a country that's known for its high quality, like tourism and that.
Yeah,
But like nobody in their right mind. That's like bringing sand to the beach. You're
exactly.
talking about a part of the world that is swimming in much less expensive, you know, marijuana
But
than yeah.
yeah, like I found that part funny. Like, why would you bring it? Like, it's way too dangerous. But let's say they got weed locally. Is there a chance, in your opinion, that maybe they? Because why I say this, because there were more comments saying the same exact thing, thinking maybe they did some weed or something like that. No, and with all due respect, obviously, to the girls, and the comments were really respectful. No one's like trying to throw shade. It's really unfortunate, but like, is there a chance, in your opinion, that they sort of went deeper into the jungle to maybe smoke some weed? I mean, for me personally, I saw literally zero indication that the girls were any sort of like drug users. So I don't know, what do you make of it?
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's interesting because I mean, on one hand, you might, if you did buy weed there, you might have to be discreet about it because it it's sort of like, at least with like the quote unquote good the good people, the good crowd, it is looked down on because there's a sort of a lot of ignorance about
Yeah.
marijuana compared to other. It's sort of like put in the same class by people that don't know better as like, harder drugs when it
Yeah.
really isn't. But I also question whether it would even be that big a deal to them coming from someplace that you know what I mean, someplace where it's just a
Hmm.
normal part of, you know what I mean, like there's not the same allure about marijuana there because like it's been legal for such a long time that maybe they're just like, I don't really need that. Like I don't.
Yeah.
And by the way, it's like not as good as the stuff they would have got at home. So
Yeah.
like, who needs it, right? It's like I mean, I'll just give you my example. Like I'm kind of a beer snob,
Yeah.
so like when I go to some place that has like crap beer, like I'm not aching to have it.
Yeah, of course, man. Like, that actually makes sense. Why would they get it there when they could have gotten like it back home? Like, the whole trip was not about partying and
Yeah,
smoking
yeah.
weed.
It's
You know
about
what I mean? Yeah,
it's about like exploring
yeah,
and like, oh, by the way, and like try hiking when you've got a buzz on and you're kind of
yeah,
confused. I mean, but
yeah,
maybe it's not totally out of bounds. But I do think
yeah.
it does seem to me though that because everyone's always wondering like why did they go to the summit and then keep going in the wrong direction, which is what it looks like happened. Um,
Oh yeah.
yeah, I mean, I mean that's I guess that's one of the questions is were they really that still overestimating their own
Okay.
abilities or so overeager, you know what I mean, to like
Exactly.
try to wring as much value as they could out of this already
Mhm.
ill ill planned trip.
Exactly, man. Let's jump a few more left. Just a thought: if the phones were removed from the girl's possession, why would the perpetrator call 112, the Dutch emergency number? I doubt a criminal would know the Dutch emergency number, and there's a response that maybe the girls made the first and second calls, so the numbers were already in their history. From there, the abductors called randomly to make it look like they just got lost. The times the calls were made seemed to be on a time schedule too. And how would the girls know to turn the phones on at the exact same time every day? I mean, we addressed these things already. We have a bigger. Oh yeah, we have like yeah, let me just, for this one, I think I need a little bit of preparation for say, so I'll just really quickly find it. And it's basically this one was actually really good. I sort of wanted to make sure I get it beforehand, but I sort of missed it. So let me just quickly find what this particular person was referring to, because it was a fascinating little comment with a fascinating screenshot. I really hope I can find it. So, yeah, dude, you wanna fill in some time while I'm searching for it? I mean, I'm gonna find it in like 5 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's just so fascinating to me how fascinating this case is to so many people. I mean, I don't know if it's like once again we've come up on this kind of like semi criticism about it before, but you can't help but wonder if it has to do with like maybe an inordinate amount of attention for people that are very charismatic. I guess we could put it that way. I
Yeah.
don't know. I mean, it is definitely tragic. I mean, I'm not trying to downplay it, but
And yeah, exactly.
yeah,
So basically, yeah, dude, I just found it. So I just found it. I managed to find it just in time. Okay, so remember this picture. We talked a lot about this picture last time, right? And now there are people thinking that maybe, and unfortunately, we don't have enough time. We're like approaching 2 hour mark, so we need to like wrap it up. But this picture, for some people, they think it's actually photoshopped, and it's actually came from this picture, dude. What do you make of that?
wait. So
Like
wait. What?
this is
Yeah.
this is just a picture, random picture that the girls just took. You know what I mean? Just while they were exploring and stuff like that. If you know what I mean. Just one
Oh
of the
wow.
picture from when they were exploring and things like that. And some people think that this particular picture was taken from that because look, even on the bottom right corner, you see that darker here. Now
Yeah.
I'll just try to put it side by side for a few seconds.
Yeah.
I'll just try to make it a little bit smaller. So some people think that this is literally
Wow.
and actually I've never put them side by side. When I put them side by side, I'm actually thinking that this is insane, to be honest,
They're
because
freaking identical. But wait, is for sure that first photo? They didn't. I guess what I'm worried about is they took this photo and they laid it on
no,
the
no, no,
other
no,
one.
no, no, it's not that. It's literally that. They
Wow.
didn't
Maybe
lay.
that's for our next episode because I mean it's
Dude, are you
yeah.
kidding
I
me?
mean it's like it's bending in the exact same. But you know what?
No, it
That's
has to be. It
I need
has
to
to be placed. We need
I
to.
need
What?
yeah, I need to see the original. I need to see the original because I mean, yeah, if I were to look at that, I'd be like, oh, case closed. Like how would her hair exactly bend in that same exact way
No, no, no. This
and
is
all
not.
those.
No, dude. This is. They overlaid it, right? I mean,
I mean, her hair is in a bun, right? So it is sort of, but yeah, it's.
dude, this is
But by the way,
what
that makes
the.
sense now why it's dark like that, though, right?
Yeah, it makes. Yeah,
Because
exactly.
that
But
the hair bun.
dude, oh my, like, is this? No, this has to be overlaid. There's no way,
Yeah,
man.
it's
This is overlaid, dude. This is no way. But it's not overlaid. Like these things match up. Okay, dude, we're coming back to this
yeah. Like
episode. Like, let's go through the comment,
I
dude.
bookmark this one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
oh my dude, what is
that's
happening?
bizarre.
Oh my god, man, what the hell was that?
That's like the frickin'
Jesus Christ.
the guy in the grassy knoll or something.
What the hell was that? Okay,
Yeah.
okay, dude, like, yeah, I think we have to return here shortly. Next comment. The photo of the hair is baffling, but just a thought. What if the photo is upside down? Flip the photo, it gives a different perspective. Just come across your podcast a few days ago and started to binge listen. Really enjoyed the topics. Thank you very much. And yeah, I mean, flipping the photos upside down, that's what we're doing also for the next time when we talk about the hair, because that was insane, man. Let's go to some other pictures from DNZ, probably New Zealand. D from New Zealand, I'm assuming. I believe someone else was using their phones and camera after a few days. Here is why. The girls would have taken photos of each other or their injuries or location if lost. They always were documenting their trip, so why suddenly stop? Also, I'm sure they wouldn't have recorded a camera message to their family during 911. Many people left the last message and loved ones. Also, the photos taken on the 8th, the theory that they took them to see in the dark doesn't make any sense because they had the ability to use the iPhone 4, which has the torchlight and so on. So, I mean, we already addressed this, and yeah, this is D. Thank you very much for this comment, because this is how I found out about the torchlight on iPhone 4. Just literally, oh, the last one. Nice. We hit the last episode, and it's Lilo C referring to a point in the podcast. The phone unlocking attempt and wrong PIN number. I believe that is if you're out in the wild with your friend and one of them or both are injured, wouldn't you swap PIN numbers? If your phones just of your phones just to have a bigger chance to unlock it to attempt emergency calls. I would do it when I was in such a horrible and kind of hopeless situation with someone else ASAP. Considering phone batteries or smartphones don't last as long as non-smartphones. Of course, this is only possible if they were still by themselves, not captured, etc. So yeah, this was the last one, and this is a great point, dude. Wouldn't you think that when they realized that they were lost or whatever, wouldn't they just swap passcodes just in case? I mean, it made sense to me.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, it makes sense. It's just one of those many things that's like, but like, wouldn't you, if you were going on a 6-hour hike,
Yeah.
wouldn't you bring like more than one bottle of water and maybe a sweater?
Yeah, exactly.
But
Oh yeah. Anything you wanted to add to that comment, because I sort of took over.
uh,
Okay. Yeah. So basically, guys, once again, we had planned more stuff for this podcast. We had planned to look into the photoshopped pictures, and there are a lot of interesting points in the Photoshop. I mean, they're crazy. They're really crazy. But now this Kris Kremers hair picture is just, I don't know what to make of that. We have to return for sure now. And then also the two guys that were, one had like drowned 4 days into the disappearance of Kris Kremers and Lisanne Froon. And in his phone, there was a picture of him and his other friend hanging out in a waterfall, like water, like some sort of a swimming area or whatever, I don't know how to call it, with two girls that were looking very familiar, like really familiar to Kris Kremers and Lisanne Froon. So we wanted to address those things, and as well maybe Alex Humphrey, the man who went missing 5 years prior in the same town. So we have like 3 points that we still want to address. And so my question to the audience, would you want us to return down the line, but definitely not next week, because we already want to do something else for next week, but down the line, would you want us to return? Because I mean, after seeing that picture of the hair, I mean, we are returning, no questions asked, but still, guys, what else would you like us to talk about for the next time? I mean, the reaction to the comments, we're probably not going to be doing that again for that episode, because it literally takes like 2 hours to do it. But yeah, that's all I wanted to say, guys. Glenn, any final words before we finally sign out?
hey, I mean, please, thank you all, everybody, for the kind comments. I think sometimes the comments have been too kind, but we really appreciate it. I mean, every time that we hear, how much someone really loves the show and how they can't believe, our subscriber numbers are as modest as they are. I mean, that's kind of like the fuel we're running off of, because we really don't make any appreciable amount of money off of this. This is really a labor of love from Juras and I. So, that's what keeps us going, is just the really strong, comments back, and constructive criticism as well. As long as it's not mean and it's meant, in ways to help us improve the show or get better at our craft. We really do appreciate it. And we read every single one of your comments. So thank you once again.
Yeah, very nice words, man. I definitely agree with that. Guys, catch us next week. As I've said, we have a very interesting case next week, a case that is developing as we speak. Very good case. So that's going to be what we're going to be doing for 93. As always, stay safe and peace out.